Lisa. I need to do a gift for a gift exchange, and this is with a group of other crafty people. We do needle crafts together, but most of them sew and do other things as well. So last year, this was the first time I'd done this, and there were some purchase gifts, and there were some things that were handmade as well. So what I decided to do for my gift is I bought this box at Home Goods, and this I thought it was kind of fun since it was a round one, and I was wanting to do these nested boxes, and Hobby Lobby used to carry them in all these different sizes, and they didn't have them, the store that I went to, so I was kind of running out of time. So I went to Home Goods and I got this. What I want to do is I'll wrap this in something else, and then inside of this I'm going to have a little cloth bag filled with those little gold dollar coins, not filled with, but a few of those little dollar coins. I thought about doing a gift card or something, but I thought, you know, the coins would add some weight to it and make it a little more fun, and then of course people can spend them however they want to, if they want to spend them at all. I'll probably leave the inside as it is, since it has a Merry Christmas greeting to it, but the outside I want to decorate, so this can be used for something on its own. And so what I have are some pieces of book paper. Mostly I'm interested in using the ones that are related to sewing, and I have a crocheting pattern here that we can use, and I've got some, this one was wording, I'll find the patterns, and then some sheet music as well. So I'm going to put those on the outside of the box. I'm going to start with a little bit of gesso to cover some of this. I think the papers will probably cover it sufficiently, but just to be sure, I want to add a little bit of gesso to this. It will also give it a good surface to stick, for everything to stick to. And we're going to use the gesso one other way once I get the papers on there. I'm looking for a pretty neutral look color-wise, because I have no idea what different colors people have in their homes. Well, that's not true. I have learned quite a few of the folks and what colors they prefer in their knitting, so I'm guessing they probably have some of those colors in their houses, but I don't know who will end up with the gift. We go around, last year they did a really fun thing that had us swapping the gifts around in interesting ways, so it's just impossible to know. Now this bottom, I probably wouldn't have to do anything with it, but since I'm here, again, we'll just coat it so that everything will stick really well to it when I glue it on. And I could have, if I wanted to, cut the time short on this, since the bottom was just really plain, I could have just decorated the top and used some of the gray that was in this bottom color in the top, and it would have been fine. And I really wouldn't have had to have done anything further to it. And I'm not going to worry about the bottom of it. So some of the papers will probably, I'll do a little bit around the edge. Some of the papers will probably come around to the bottom, but I'm not going to fuss over the bottom. I might glue some felt on it or something, but that's all. Alright, so that needs to dry or be heat set for just a moment, and I'm going to leave this out here because I am going to do some more with the gesso, and we're going to glue some of these pieces on next with Mod Podge. So I like to tear these rather than cut them. It looks so much more natural. And I definitely want to get some of this crochet pattern on there because that's what our group is knitters and crocheters, and this is from an old pattern book. And I'm folding some of this down on the bottom, and I will cover that bottom with felt at the end. I don't do that on camera, but that's just how I kind of cover up the bottom and make it look a little bit better. And we'll put some of this on the top as well. Some of the top will be covered with, will be decorated, so a lot of it won't show, but you'll still see a few little things. And when I did give this away, because I have now given been to the swap and stuff, one of the ladies was looking at it and pointing out the crochet pattern on the top, so it did get noticed. Some of this is from an old sewing book from the 1950s. I have used and used and used that book, and I've had, it's got illustrations and words on it. It's been a really good source of book paper. I also have some musical notes. Those always look nice on these kind of things, and some of it will get covered up with paints and different designs, but you'll still see a lot of that through there. So I didn't need but about 3 different things going around. You don't need a lot of paper for a small box like this, and you want to put the Mod Podge over the top as well because you're going to be adding some other colors and things to it, or paints or mediums to it, I should say. And some more things out of that sewing book. And I'm going to trim or tear a strip of the musical notes and go around this edge, that lip that's on the box top. But I bought that little box for like $3 at Home Goods, and that's all that extra that I have in this. Everything else I already had in my stash of mixed media supplies or book paper. I also had some things here from sewing patterns. That works really well too. If you have like instructions, you can use tissue from sewing patterns. That would work. I didn't even think about that for this box until just now, but sometimes I'll put a layer of sewing tissue on. The color is really nice because you get that nice vintage color to it. I'm going to trim some of that extra edging off after everything dries. And I'm adding a little bit of gesso. I wanted to sort of, again, make it a little more shabby chic. And I started doing that, and I thought, I need some color on here first before I put the gesso on. So I've got some neutral colors, a little piece of acetate. I'm just putting my paints out. Gray, brown, and a little bit of a gold color. This is hard for me to do neutrals because I like color. I'd normally be putting blues and greens or reds or orange or something on this, but I'm having to do this in neutrals because I don't know who will get it. And at the swap, the person who did end up with this, or it's not the swap, it's I guess I'm calling it a gift swap. We didn't really swap the gifts, but at the gift exchange, the person who did end up with it, she said she had just redecorated a room in her house and it would be perfect for it. So I'm glad that it worked out for somebody, because the real gift was the coins inside, as you'll see in a little bit. I've got some stencils here. When I pick stencils, I like to pick something that's really decorative, like this one that's the fleur-de-lis kind of look, something real fussy. And usually some geometrics like those chevrons, and then something with just the little dot pattern on there, very small design, if I'm just doing 3 stencils. If I'm doing a large piece, of course, I'll do a lot more stencils. Got that a little heavy, so I had to wipe some of that color off. And now taking a little bit of gesso around the edges after everything is dried. And I also used an emery board to smooth them a bit because I really didn't have them quite as smooth. I did this pretty rapidly. I did this one morning, did the whole box. And I'd have to let some dry and have other things I had going on, but I did not spend a ton of time on this project. It was kind of whatever was at hand. When I went to pick out embellishments, went through them quickly, did not spend gobs and gobs of time on this project, because this is the vessel for holding my my little coins. Now what I'm going to put on top are some flowers. And I've got 3 different ones. Again, I'm choosing some neutrals. I've got some keys. I have some rhinestones. That was a new pack of rhinestones. I kept trying to find something. That's one thing I did look for, was something that I'd already opened, but I didn't have anything. Got those little frames there. Just kind of arranging to see how I want to do things. But what I'm going to need to do is add a layer of Mod Podge to these flowers, because I want to add a little bit more paint to them and change them so that they blend in with the box better. And if I don't put the Mod Podge on there, when I add the paint, it just soaks straight into the paper of these mulberry paper rose flowers, and it just doesn't move, and you don't get a pretty effect. So you have to add that layer of Mod Podge over the flowers. And it takes a little bit of time, but it's worth doing. And I can add some color to them, and I can also add some some other medium, as we'll see here in just a moment. What I added to the top of that box to sort of finish the edge with some washi tape, a couple of rounds of the washi tape to fix that. Here's the bronze golden color, and I chose the bronze because it's neutral, and it's also, of the three neutrals, silver, gold, and bronze, the ones I had the most of, and I wouldn't be diminishing my stash too much using it. Again, this is just trying to get this project to look nice, but not overly fussy, and not really trying to use up my most special things. I want to look nice, but I don't want to use up like I wouldn't use the very last key I had in my stash, for example, for something like this. I don't know what it is about keys, but I think keys always look really good on this stuff. One of my favorite mediums is iridescent medium, and it's a great way to thin down something like the golden, silver, bronze, or gold, and spread that out a little bit and make it go further, and also have that extra sheen to it. So I'm doing that and coloring that flower that started out with a yellow base to it. That came from Wild Orchid Crafts out of England. They have beautiful, beautiful flowers, and they're, individually very inexpensive. And I'll hot glue those in place, along with the key. I've got a little bit of lace I've added there, and I ended up putting a little bit on that frame too because it was just too white. And to tie into the flowers, I'm putting a little bit of the bronze color on with the stencil onto the bottom of the box as well. Use a nice stiff bristle brush to apply through those stencils. Little dot stencils like this, you just use those kinds of things over and over again. It's the kind of thing you can use on every project, and you'd never really realize that you were repeating yourself. Okay. And a little bit of hot glue to hold all these things together. And I decided to add some of those rhinestones. Since they're on acetate, I can cut them out and decide what will be the best look. And they stick on, but I did add a little bit of hot glue in one or two places just to be sure they were there good and just right. Now, rub-ons are another great thing, and where I started doing the mixed media was in Christy Tomlinson's classes. If you're interested in doing this kind of thing, she does really great classes on what all the products you need are and where you get everything, and does a lot more detail than what I'm showing here. And she does things on canvases as opposed to boxes, but you can take those ideas and use them and then make them your own. And a lot of the things I do, like with the flowers and the way I color them and all, is stuff that I've worked out for myself over time. I do a lot with the book paper, but you can get tremendous ideas from her classes, and she's a big fan of rub-ons, and so that's where I started using rub-ons because I never really liked them much for scrapbooking, but they're great for this type of project. And these are some Tim Holtz ones, which fit in very well with my look. And the last step is to add Mod Podge coat to the whole thing. And what I like to do, and this is again one of the things that I've sort of added over time, is to put a little bit of color into my Mod Podge. And in this case, I used some antique linen ink. Now the Mod Podge is going to dry clear, so you don't want to put a lot of ink in there. I've done this with Vintage Photo. It gives a beautiful effect, but it gets it a lot darker, a lot browner. Okay, I have my coins inside a little bag. It's made out of some quilt fabric I didn't really have a particular use for, and simple drawstring tie. And then we'll put the lid on, and I'll show you, how this finished with just a little bit of washi tape. And on the bottom, I used some felt to cover that bottom. I happen to have some brown up here, so this works out pretty nicely. And I think it looks best to have this music kind of continue down here. That seems like a kind of a balanced look with what's going on with the back. And so you can see how the box is going to look. And what I'll do to finish wrapping it is I'll just put it in some tissue paper, pull it up, and tie a bow around it. So when the person opens it, then they'll have this, and they'll take the lid off, and they'll have a bag with 10 coins in it. And that's our my swap gift for this year. So I'm doing this video a few days before it's presented, but I'll wait till after the party in case any of my friends happen to see this. I don't want them to see what the gift is. Although we don't really have control. It's not one of those where you go and you pick a gift, or at least that wasn't the way it was last year. I've only been to this thing once before, but the way it was last year is we passed the gifts around in a certain sequence, and then it was kind of like musical chairs. You ended up with the gift that was in your hands at the end. You got that gift, and that's the one that you opened. So I'm curious to see what we do this year to select the gifts. I don't know if they do the same thing every year or not, but it was a really fun party. So anyway, that's how I did my little box and decorated it in more neutral colors. You could do brighter colors. You could leave the flowers off. You could have something in the middle. That's what I really wanted to begin with, was like a finial kind of thing to have in the middle to sort of pull it up. And I just didn't have anything around the house to use. And since it snowed this weekend, I didn't want to go out and hunt something. So everything I used here outside of the box and was stuff I had. We even had the coins. So I didn't have to go out and shop for anything to make this gift once I got the appropriate box. And if I'd had the right thing around here, I could have even done that without having to go shopping. So that's my swap gift for this year. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video.